if you could stop your camera, please.
Okay.
We're starting already, folks, but here we go. It's the way it is, man.
Hey, TikTok, they've been wanting a video, some of you, on how I ground and what to say. This is me now. This is the way I do it. I'm barefoot, and here we go. Positive energy in, negative energy out. Light energy in, negative energy out. I release all negative energy, all negative thoughts, feelings, and memories. I release all low vibrational energies to ground. Channeling spirit, my father. Father, thank you for creation. Thank you for my brothers and sisters above and below. Forgive me for that which I am, for that which you despise in me, that which I despise in you. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Chris. Channeling the divine light energy through me, through my brother the tree, and into my sister, spirit of the earth.
What's up, folks? What is up, folks? You can bring yourself in now, Robbie. Hey, if that's my son, is that my son? That cannot be my son. But sometimes my son trolls me. Hey, we got special guests. We get Robbie to actually turn. There you go. Robbie Olson378 is some guy that I've been following on TikTok for about, I don't know, 7 months, maybe 6 months. And he's a fascinating person. Hey, Christy Price, thank you for joining us. Straight. There's a couple of people that I'm not quite sure. I wonder if that's my son. If it's not my son, I have no idea. So the people will roll in as time goes on, Robbie. Robbie is a fascinating person. But before we get going with Robbie, tomorrow, Thursday night, who do we have now? We have David, Thundercloud, and that should be a really cool show. And then on Friday we got Long Island Bigfoot Mike. That should be also a cool one. So that's what we got scheduled now. And then I'm still trying to find time for all my other stuff. But anyways, it's the way it goes. How's the audio, Christy, and everyone? Does it sound good? How's the audio for you, Rob?
It's good.
Cool.
Great.
So Rob, Rob is a guy that's fascinated me for a while. His philosophy, his ideas about life, his changing of his life, things that have happened. The fact that he had a near death experience just a few years ago, and here he is banging it out. And Robbie was a musician and still is. And I was a musician as well. I was a bass player and used to write music and all that until the MS hit me. And we'll see what else. Robbie has just some interesting takes on life, and particularly when it talks to grounding and our relationship with trees. And those, hey, how's it going, Will? Good to see you. Now, Robbie, you can see the chat, right?
Right.
See, well, since we're at this, hey, Will, I think I figured out what the problem was. And the problem is that there's a button that you had on the side, and I didn't realize. I wasn't thinking. I was thinking of focus on our conversation. That I forgot to mention to you about this. There's a chat button that you could have hit and seen all the chat. So next time we'll sort that out when we have a show together. So, anyways, Rob, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Robbie Olson?
Just Robbie Olson, man. Worked the oil field for about 30 years, and I went to church, and in the oil field, we drank a lot. At least the old one we did.
Sure.
Drank. But anyway, now I play music and just a country boy, normal American family, mom and dad. I got brothers and sisters. I had a sister who passed away from cancer, the one just a year younger than me.
How's your mom doing, by the way?
Yeah, she still hadn't got her eyes open. They were going to take the trachea, I guess, out tomorrow, or the tube, feeding tube, air tube, or whatever.
How's it going, MT?
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I saying hi to Mike MT.
Oh, you're good. Anyway, that was kind of a weird deal. She fell down the stairs in the basement, and she made it back upstairs and got in bed, so they thought she had a stroke. But my daughter found her glasses at the end of the staircase down the basement, so we know that's where she fell. And she hit her head, and didn't look too good. The doctor didn't have much promise for her, and I did my healing deal. And by the time they life flighted her to Oklahoma City, her vitals had changed, so they did the surgery. She come through it all right. And she's responsive. When you talk to her, ask her questions, she'll squeeze your hand. She just hadn't opened her eyes yet. And like I said, she can't talk. She got the breathing tube in her.
Well, my mom passed away 2021. Buried her on the first day of spring in March 20. So I know it's, we're getting older, brother. You know what I mean? We're over it. When you're over a century-old age, man, people move on. We're going to move on too. So all my best wishes are with you and your mother, the speedy recovery, and that she's back to close to normal health as possible. I know it's a difficult thing to go through and what she's going through. So, folks, once again, thank you for all those there. Will from Maryland. Sasquatch Watcher, Mike from MT Paranormal Life. Mike, I want you to come on my show again and talk about that freaking what you guys did. There's very revealing stuff that you did in the woods, and Christy as well. Anybody else is there that I missed? I know. My apologies. Trees, man. Trees are a big issue, and my research of late, when I started to realize that the importance of trees, and Robbie has some fascinating philosophy, maybe even a bit of a shamanic spiritualism that is transformed. It's funny how so many of us, we start out maybe in very conventional Christianity, and then as time goes on, we kind of realize some of the problems, and we find something that works for us. And I am someone who's I was very active in AA. 15 years ago. I've been sober for about 17 years. I was a raging alcoholic. I loved Jack Daniels. I used to drink a fifth of that a night. That was the bare minimum. I was a musician, and just like a lot of other guys, a party time. You know what I mean? And I ruined it. Became a problem for me. I don't consider myself a alcoholic. I was a drunk, and what I was missing in a big part of my life is spirituality, right? So, but eventually, I found my own path in my own way, and how I see things. Um, and I noticed you're doing the same thing now in your own. Well, let's go back before we go any further. Let's talk about your near-death experience. What the heck happened back in 2019? Was it?
Yeah. 19, I had a heart attack, but I knows about it. They kept telling me to go to the doctor, heart doctor, and I never did. It got to where just carrying the trash out kind of wore me out. I had a heart attack, and I died. I know I died. They took me to Oklahoma City, did heart surgery. I was out for they did it Monday night, and I woke up Thursday morning, and I knew I'd left here. It wasn't nothing like I was taught, you know. I went to what they call the void. It was dark. I could see specks of light out in the distance. And that's all I remember really about that. I woke up in the hospital.
So let's go
The
back to
next day,
you saw what?
I see it. I was in the dark. It was dark. I seen little tiny specks of light way off in the distance.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
Okay.
I didn't see the pearly gates. I didn't see the fiery hell.
It's funny how everyone
And
sees something a little bit different.
yeah,
Some universal archetypes, but everyone has a little different. Before we get any further about your experience with your death, what was your take from that? When you looking back at that, was there any meaning behind that, or do you just think it was just insignificant? I mean, is there any meaning behind that? Because you seem to remember that. I mean,
yeah, I remember that. I know when I came back or came to on that Thursday, I went home the next day. My daughter was coming down with the boyfriend. They're married now, but I just walked out there and said, "Hey, my daughter's coming. I'm going home," you know. And as I've grown, I guess I know I was mad. I was really mad that I had to come back because I was at peace, you know. I really didn't even think about this place or my kids or my grandkids. I was at peace, and I had to come back to all this chaos, grief, pain, and I was pretty upset about it. And I've grown quite a bit since then, a lot. And I realized that I had to come back. You know, he sent me back here. They sent me back here to awaken the chosen ones, the elect. And I always thought they were going to be the ones in church. And my take on it is they were the people of lesser means on the highways and byways. And, you know, I was in the dark, but he was dark, the creator. He that was, that is, that will always be. He was dark because he spoke light into existence. And he even said the earth was void and dark, you know. So I believe he was there. I got a lot of different take on everything, but it was an experience.
well, yeah, let's go down that road at some point about your different take. Let's now go back to this near-death experience. So, geez, you have a heart attack. I mean, you have a big old line running through they cracked open your ribs, huh?
Yeah, the funny thing was I got to the hospital ambulance. The doctor, after he looked at everything, he said he never seen nothing like it. But I'd grown 4 veins past the blockage, and that's what I've been running on. And then I'll go down to Oklahoma City, and I had the operation at Oklahoma Heart Hospital, and he said the same thing. It was amazing. He never seen nothing like that. I grew 4 veins on the around the blockage, and that's what was keeping me going. And,
was this before the heart attack or after the fact?
This was after the heart attack, and the doctors checked me. I mean, the one did the surgery, but he said, yeah, I'd grown 4 little fingers, they called them, past the blockage, and that's what I was feeding on all that time. So they've never seen nothing like it. Kind of a miracle or magic.
What do you think might have contributed to that? I mean, you had a pretty hard life. I mean, you're a hardcore dude. I mean, what was
Well, I worked hard, man, real hard, and I drank hard. You know, I played hard too. I mean,
sure.
The drinking, cigarettes. I smoked weed since I was about 16, and it's just a lifestyle. It was real hard. That contributed a lot to it.
To the heart attack. But after the fact, what I'm asking is about how the heck do you just automatically just grow through 4 new veins? So, like you said, it's a bit of a miracle. And
they told me, well, the 4 veins was before I had the heart attack. My body, I guess, had grown these 4 fingers, had bypassed the blockage, and that's what had been feeding me all these last few years. Was that?
No kidding.
Yeah, and he did surgery. Like I said, I woke up on Thursday. I was headed home on Friday. I never went to rehab. I don't take none of their meds. They give me 1.5 years if I kept smoking, and that was at 19. And here I am. You know, I still smoke, and I still don't take none of their meds.
When did the heart attack happen?
Huh?
What day or
what? Yeah, 2019.
What month and day? Do you mind me asking?
Oh, man, I'm thinking it was in February.
So basically we're talking 4 years, and you still, this is interesting. So when did you start to get this whole idea about grounding? Because like you just said that you're not using any of their medication. Your dude had just had a major heart attack. And you died. And here you are 4 years later on TikTok, sharing your philosophy and your relationship with the trees.
Yeah, the grounding came in. It sounds strange because I believe it was spirit, him created all things, but it's a thought you don't always. It's a thought that's way out there in the left field. I had a guy one time ask me, he said, "What's God sound like?" Well, he sounded like me because he was in my head, you know. And basically, if you don't ground, Robbie, if you don't ground, you're not going to be here. And I didn't even know nothing about it, but I went ahead and did it. I mean, most of my spiritual track, I've done it, and don't know why.
Had you researched grounding prior to the fact? Because there was a lot of stuff out there on the internet about grounding and how that is effective to you to, walking around in bare feet and all that kind of jazz.
I didn't know nothing about grounding. Hadn't even thought about it until that thought came in.
So something put that in your head.
Right.
And since then, what's going on, Dominic? Or Damien, excuse me, not Dominic. Something put that in your head, the whole idea, but maybe I ought to start walking around in my bare feet in the grass. And then...
Yeah. No, it's pretty direct. The tree. They said the tree. Go ground to.
It's because those of us who are in my field of research, which is Sasquatch, Sabe, Bigfoot, right, forest spirits, that kind of thing, there's a strong relationship with the trees in the spirit realm. I want to hear
Right.
about this. This is a thought was put in your head, and the whole idea was to start grounding yourself, walking around barefoot, and start interacting with the trees. This is fascinating to me. I mean, this is truly a fascinating thing, and I don't think it's like I told you before, and I've mentioned this to other people who have listened to my show that I have got the impression before we even decided to have the show, I had this impression that in the past, distant cultures, um, especially indigenous cultures in North America, and probably in throughout Eurasia, throughout probably everywhere. I know that in Africa and in India, and there's certain trees that are very sacred that people go to and worship and interact with. But what I want to say is that I think that there was an adoption of trees, not like what we think today with Greenpeace and all that other jazz. What I'm talking about is like an individual, say in a tribe, adopted a very special tree, and one that was maybe a 100, 200-year oak, or maybe a 2,000-year tree for all that matter. Who knows? But some tree that
Right.
they had an affinity with, that they had a relationship with. And the reason why that is, it was not because they were tree huggers, but because they recognized that there was sacredness within the trees or spiritual, there was a spiritual connection, right? With the
Yeah, it's
tree.
funny. Even Yeshua told you had the tree of knowledge, you had the tree of life, you know. So yeah, there's spiritual connection.
Right. What did they crucify him on a tree? We talked about before about remember when he spit in the clay and rubbing the guy's eyes, and the guy says, "What do you see?" And he asked him, Jesus asked him what he sees. He said, I see people, but they appear as like trees. You know what I mean? They didn't. It's not like mountains, or not like rocks, or not like buildings, but like trees. And
Right.
there's the not so subtle hint once your eyes are open of the even because a lot of people don't want to believe this, but back then, even there, people are called Hebrews, and the people of the Bible, they mysticism and spirituality and um, was very much a part of their religion. And in fact, I think culture would be a better way of saying it, not religion, culture. And I think that all cultures in our before we were, poisoned by modernia and the television and the public fool system and everything else, people had a much more stronger relationship with the that was
Nature.
around us. And let's think about what's the one thing that stands out most of all around us, especially those in wooded areas or forested areas, is the trees. Of course,
Right.
the mountains are cool and they're awesome, but there's not the same thing as when you are in the presence of a massive mature oak or whatever, you know what I mean? There's a million other ones out there, right? So yeah, trees have always been really important. So there's something, a voice inside you said, man, it's time for you to go and ground yourself and interact with trees. Tree.
Hmm.
Tell us
That's
more
what
about
the
this. Tell us more about this.
well, I've always had a connection kind of with trees. I never looked at it that way. I planted them at my house, about 5 or 6 of them, and watched them grow. And I always go out there and talk to them, hey, you're looking good, getting big. And
Right.
so, but never on a spiritual stance, never really thought much of it. That's just my nature. And
Who
as I
does?
started grounding, probably I'd go out and I'd take my shoes off and put my hands on the tree. On the first 3, 4 times, I didn't really notice nothing. But like that fifth time I went out there, the tree sucked my hands to it like a magnet, and it took my whole body.
Say that
Now,
again. Say that again.
the tree, about the fifth time I went out and did that, barefooted, standing, I put my hands on the tree. It was like the tree was it magnetized it to the tree. You could feel it. It sucked my hands to the tree.
Really?
And yeah,
Magnetism,
yeah,
electro EMF.
yeah, it's
Electrical.
crazy. And I've had a few other people that have been grounded and did the same thing, but it it felt like my knees were bending. I had my eyes closed. I was breathing in divine energy in, negative energy out, and man, it felt like my knees were bending. And I finally popped open my eyes and my knees weren't bending. And I think it was grounding my spirit up so much that, you see, I believe life is energy.
Yeah.
I believe that the creator is energy. I believe he's consciousness, and I believe he's balance. And the biggest thing is balance. And I believe that the grounding part of it is to get rid of the movement. Go ahead.
Do not hesitate at all with your philosophy, the way you see things, and your point of view. Nobody here is going to judge you. And then if anybody does judge you, we'll figure out a way to remove them. So, although I don't want to do that, actually, just if you are judging them, just hear them out, because his story is fascinating, and I think that it has a lot. There's a lot of truth that all of us who hear this can adopt. So go back to what you're saying. Don't hold back, man.
Okay. Like I said, I believe life is energy. I believe that it's polarized. You can't have one without the other. You can't have negative without positive, good without bad, night without dark, or night without light, and everything. Healing without pain. There's a polar opposite. And we live in a negative world. We know that. We look around. I believe that too. In 1960, they developed synthetic rubber. So we're always on rubber. We're never grounded anymore. As time went on, I realized, listening to science, science says that's where most inflammation comes from. It's because we're not grounded. And there's many ways to ground. Walking in the grass, they say it's instantaneous. Has to do with electrons, positive, negative electrons. So I believe we build.
It takes about 10 minutes to have some kind of change in your body chemistry by simply grounding barefoot.
No, I watched the deal on TikTok on that grounding. They were going to measure the difference in energy that was created from grounding, walking barefoot on the grass. They said it was so instantaneous that they couldn't see how much it was, but they knew the electrons or something. And it had to do with cardiovascular, which was way down the road from when I had our deal. But anyway, instead of your stuff clotting, I guess your blood vessels, it makes them slick where they don't clot. And it's on TikTok. It's grounding. But I've been telling people to ground for 2 years. But I believe we build up negative energy. People feel like they're under a dark cloud. They are, because negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. Gold attracts gold, lead attracts lead. Gold don't attract lead. So when you get so much negative energy on you, that's all you attract is energy, negative energy. And you're always going to carry, because you're both, you're negative and positive, just like the creator. But I think you can overload on the negative stuff. Feels like you're in the dark cloud, and I believe you are. It's all negativity coming to you and sticking to your energy field. I think that's where disease comes from. Man, when you go to the tree and ground, one thing, the roots go deep in the ground, towards the center of the earth, which the electromagnetic field gets stronger. We're electromagnetic fields, or magnets. We attract.
Yes.
And you don't get rid of all the negative. You don't discharge it all, but you discharge that which ain't divine. See what I'm saying? Because you want to reach a balance. When you discharge that negative energy, you're able to pull divine light energy. I believe that's what Tesla was talking about, the free energy. Einstein too. And that's why I started doing it. Where this stuff, I was homeless for a year. I had a semi-accident in 2014. Wasn't my fault. Guy pulled out in front of me in his semi, and I blowed my neck out. Well, they fused my neck, And man, it wasn't right. I kept telling them something wrong, something wrong. They kept telling me it looked good. And about 6 months after I had that fusion, my wife, she got breast cancer, and they did a radical double mastectomy. By the time she went through the radiation and the chemo or stuff, it smoked her. I didn't even know her anymore. But I ended up losing in 7 years. I ended up losing everything I had. I mean, even the house I paid for, paid on for 20 some years. And to this day, that company never paid me a dime. And workman's comp, we know what that is. But I lost everything, and I was homeless. And I was homeless about a year. And then I moved into Section 8 on disability. And I was there about a year. I finally moved out there. But yeah, the negative, positive. And it goes, it kind of fits. It's funny that Yeshua, see, I believe that Jesus is the opposite of Yeshua. Jesus is the negative, created by the Catholic Church.
Wow.
And I say that because Yeshua was a master, not a savior. He was a master, a teacher, like Muhammad, a master, a teacher, like Ghana, which they called him Buddha. Buddha means he that is enlightened, he that is awake. They were masters, teachers. What did they teach? They all taught love. And I believe that men of power, where there's power, we know there's corruption. We see it every day. And men of power manipulated their teachings. Now, I grew up Christian, so I know more about it than I do the other ones. But Yeshua, he was a master. They even called him master. I believe Christian is a Roman slave name, which it is. Christianity was developed by the Roman Catholic Church. But where did Yeshua hang out? He hung out in the highways and byways with the people of lesser means, I believe, teaching them they had gifts, spiritual gifts. I mean, he raised Lazarus, and then he looks at the people and he says, "You'll do greater things than I." Well, I imagine they were tripping back then. I believe, yeah. And then I looked at the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's crazy. These are four religious political belief systems. You got a white one, a black one, a red one, and the fourth one wasn't bay or pale. The word was chloros in Greek. It means green. Four political religious belief systems. The white one being Catholicism, the black one being Christianity, the red one being communism, and the green one being Islam.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then these are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And the creator tells you they're wicked and evil. When you look up Jesus in the Strong's Christian Concordance, it says Jesus, horse of war. So you got four horsemen of the apocalypse, and the horse of war, fifth political religious belief system. Here's the other thing about them. 325 years approximately after the master went to a tree, you got Constantine. He starts the Roman Catholic Church. Hence, can't beat him. Join him. All roads lead to Rome. I believe that's where they come up with Jesus, the opposite of Yeshua. What really confounds my mind is Jesus. We worship his birthday on December 25th. How ironic that that's a Roman holiday. The sun god, they worship his birthday, Apollo. And then Easter was that's another Roman holiday. I think it was Easter for the Romans, and it's a rise of the sun god. And so that's where I get my take on polar opposites there. And I don't believe that Yeshua went to a cross because common sense. He's standing there. Pilate represents the emperor, right? Pilate looks over and says, "I see nothing this man has done to deserve death."
Right.
And he sticks his hands in that bowl of water. That's very significant. That means Rome's completely out of it. he turns them over to men of power, the Pharisees and Sadducees, and says, judge them on your laws. And I believe if you go to Leviticus, I think that's the book of laws, look up the penalty for blasphemy. They nailed him to a tree. They stoned him, which was normal then, and they burnt the tree to get rid of his existence. Then they bring him back as a savior to back them. They did crucify people on crosses, but not him, you know.
It's interesting.
And yeah, I mean,
people, another
yeah.
interesting thing is, when you talk about the alleged birthday on the 25th of December, which is the beginning of the winter solstice, John the Baptist, his birthday was 6 months earlier in the summer solstice.
Right.
So there definitely is a lot of astrotheology involved in it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from with all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not necessarily agree on everything that you're saying, but it doesn't really matter if I agree with everything you're saying or not. It doesn't really matter, because one thing that is definitely certain, there's a whole lot of confusion that's happened through religion. A lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation. And so, so I hear what you're saying about that. And I'm not trying to stop you. If you want to share with
you're fine.
If you want to share with you can say whatever you want, that you're my guest. But I'm just thinking about, so you come to this realization sometime in your life, you grow up a Christian, you have a very Christian background, and of course through your life and basically living like a heathen, like I used to, you know what I mean? Partying, partying hard,
Right.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, even back then, you know what I mean? It was, even though it was a 70s or 60s, 70s term, it's still, for a lot of us, that's the way it was. But anyways, in the process of time, you start finding some kind of connection with the higher power, God, the creator. And did you start working on this? Because I know you said you're pretty much a dark character prior to the heart attack and your near-death experience. Is this spiritual thing started happening after the heart attack type of thing, or before?
Yeah, really hardcore. Once I got to grounding, that's what connected me with spirit. The breathing in, it's more meditation, but it's like praying. That's when I started becoming awakened. It connected me with spirit. Now, I'd had encounters with him before, the creator, but I thought it was just me. I'm nuts, And sometimes I still think that, but anyway.
If you're not a bit nuts in this world, there's something seriously wrong with you, actually.
I figured out that I'm one with creation. You see, we're spirit and energy. Okay. The sun is the spirit energy, the moon, the stars, each one of the stars, the planets, the earth, the birds, even the air we breathe is a spirit energy.
Right.
The water, the animals. These are all our brothers and sisters in creation. He is creation in him. And that's why I talk to him. It sounds crazy, but I travel to the upper and I've traveled to the lower.
Why does that sound crazy?
Well, people look at me like I'm nuts, but I ain't. I mean,
well, one of the things that I've observed with all of us when we have our shamanic moments and our spiritual moments, and hey, listen, I've seen Bigfoot, right? And there's a lot of people in this room who've seen Bigfoot, or something, or spirits, or ghosts, or stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, when you go through this kind of stuff, you do feel a bit crazy, but that doesn't mean you're crazy. By the way, Julio, good for seeing you. Thank you for joining us. This doesn't make you crazy. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, brother, don't call yourself crazy so much. It's easy to do. And by the way, I've had moments on this show where I remember when I was interviewing my buddy Jared. During that interview, I must have said it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. At least 3 dozen times. I look back at it. I listen to it.
I
I'm like,
do.
what was going on spiritually in me for me to say that? And part of it was I hadn't had any sleep in like, I've had hardly sleep in like 3 days, and I was really tired and exhausted and all that. And I do think that part of it, like you said, this dualistic system that we live in of darkness and light, of day and of night and day, and good and evil and all kind of stuff. I think that part of it, the spirit realm doesn't mess with us. How's it going, Paradox? And so, I look back and I go, like, why did I keep saying that? I was like, what was going on there? And I said, well, hey, there's this old idea. Well, it's been around for a while. I got it from AA when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you're dealing with those sort of things, it's going to mess with your mind and your spirituality, right? So if you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're lonely or you're tired, those are things to deal with, man. And so if you deal with those things, you're going to have much more level, balanced, properly charged time, right? I mean, so if you're not dealing with that stuff, then you deal with those things, you know what I mean? So that's why I wasn't dealing with that. Why did I bring that up? Because, I do think it's something spiritual that happens. I think it's part of it is our culture too. But when we experience something new that doesn't fit the norm or the official or authoritative narratives, we're conditioned to say it's crazy. Well, that's not true. And we've lied to ourselves, and people have lied to us. We're not crazy. What your experience is a greater sense of self and the reality that you're in. And it doesn't fit in with the mainstream media because, as you bring it up before, when it comes to the control apparatus that we're under, you say all roads lead to Rome, and I agree with you. I mean, here's a little secret for everyone who didn't know this. The original name of Washington, D.C. was Rome, Maryland. Now, I'm not knocking Roman Catholics, but I will tell you one thing. All roads do lead to a place in Rome. It's the largest monarchy in the world, and it's called the Vatican. And it's an extension of the black nobility, but it has nothing, I'm not knocking Catholics because there's a lot of wonderful Catholics. I'm just saying it's just at the very top, there's a bunch of black magicians running the show. That's what they're doing. And they use their magic and their sorcery to convince us that when we're having these special quote unquote supernatural or spiritual experiences, we're getting closer to the creator. We're like, oh, you're going nuts. And no, you're not going nuts. You're actually waking up. That's the problem. That's what's happening. And some of us, it takes a heart attack to wake up, right?
Right. Yeah. Takes sleeping here, man. I was going to say, that year I was homeless, I was studying Tesla, Einstein. I never was interested in that. And I couldn't figure it out. I thought it was kind of strange. I even told myself, man, what the hell are you studying this for? And it was funny, but how everything leads into something else. Now, I made a lot of changes in my life, but, like the drinking deal, I went to AA,
the cult of not drinking. I have a right to say that because I was Mr. AA. I had started meetings that still exist to this day. I did the steps all the way through 6 times, and I know a lot of old timers that even knew Bill Wilson at the time, and never even got past the 4 steps. So, and I sponsored a lot of guys and all that. And one of the things I learned through because I'm like one of these guys, and when I get involved with something, I just go for it. You know what I mean?
All out.
All out. Yeah. And it's part. You probably recognize that person. You probably have the same personality trait, and I learned, after about 6-7 years that I was in a cult. Again, I got sucked in a cult. The cult this time, not drinking. And so I had to make a decision. And, I think that's all part of the process of coming to reality and kind of greater awareness of self is when you're willing to let go of the group and follow the truth of the creator or God and all that, And I think it's something that's universal that happens to many people in different ways, different paths. Each and every one of us have a different path that will eventually lead us to the ultimate source of truth, right?
Right. And when you become awakened to you see all the holes, You know, I tell people, I said they call it the Holy Bible because it's got more holes than Swiss cheese. Nothing ever lined up. Let's look at the rapture. You know, the rapture. Supposed to get raptured before the Great Tribulation. He says, lest I shorten these 7 days, which we know are 7 years, my very elect may be deceived. So he shortens it in the Bible. He shortens it to 3.5. My question is, if this big jet airliner is coming through to fly you to heaven before the Great Tribulation, what are the best of the best doing here halfway?
Ah.
You
Well,
know, just things like
I
that.
have studied the Bible intensely, and I have it's overwhelming that it has nothing to do with our day. So
And it's nothing against the people, nothing against them. It's just, it's saying, it's like my deal. I prayed, went to church, prayed and prayed and prayed all my life to quit smoking pot, weed, and to quit drinking. And
yeah,
I truly, honestly wanted to quit drinking, but it never happened. And when I started grounding in a tree, I woke up one day and I go, man, I ain't drank in a week. I ain't smoked any weed in a week, you know? And this voice comes in my head and it says, you didn't quit, it quit you. Because by grounding, that's how you charge your spirit. Okay.
this is where I want us to go back to if we can, because I believe this is something that's useful for anybody that wants to hear this. And those, I understand if you get turned off or what his approach on things, but just hear about, take what you can use, and as time goes on, we all grow and mature and wherever it may be. I mean, I have a lot of issues with Christianity myself and the Bible as well, because but saying that, I still believe in Christ and I still believe in God. I just have a different. I might probably make more in line with the Gnostics, but that's my issue. It's someday if you
It
guys
was
want to talk.
hard on me. That's your whole foundation of your life is built on that. From for me, it was Christianity. For other people, it's whatever religion they are, Buddhism or Islam. Uh, but your whole foundation, it damn destroyed me
It
because
does.
this
Religion
ain't.
has ruined of many a family and many a person. This is true. I mean, it's an undeniable fact. Uh,
Yeah.
but you, after the heart attack, a voice in your head says, start grounding yourself and go to the tree. You put your hands on the tree. It's almost like your hands are like, after the fifth time, you're like, it's almost like you can't move your hands away from the tree. It's like almost like you're glued to it or magnetized to this tree. And in this process, you start having some healing. In other
Oh
words,
yeah.
you start quitting your drinking and you're doing too much pot and all that kind of stuff, which was for you, it was time to
I
do it.
got nothing against that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
I
no, I
don't
don't.
condemn anyone for
No,
drinking
no.
or smoking pot or.
It's
Uh,
that's not what it's about. I mean, you just had a heart attack. You died back in 2019. These are things you had to stop, right, for your own. And this is like the spirit realm, I guess, if you will, and the spirit itself, uh, saying, "Hey, come this way, and we'll heal you." And I want to hear about this because this is a fascinating story. I mean, it's
well, it's a, let's go back to a semi accident. I had two more discs that were blowed out to Dr. Snell at the Oklahoma, whatever it's called. Anyway, he's a neurosurgeon, and we finally found him during the pandemic when it first came out. I was getting massive pain in my arm. The pain was so bad in my arm that I actually stuck the 40 underneath my chin a couple times. It was that bad, that extreme, and you couldn't get no help because they had the pandemic going on. They did an MRI. They found them two other discs. I healed them by grounding through the tree. Uh, the heart deal. I like I said, I never take their meds. Pharma in Greek says witchcraft. It's witchcraft. The word varma in Greek is witchcraft. Uh, so the pharmaceutical company, on and on. But yeah, I didn't take none of their meds. That's the funny thing. Then I had that massive stroke, you know,
Man, it took out my whole right side. That was scary.
When did this happen?
About a year ago in March. Let's see, February 28th. Matter of fact.
So you would go through some crazy stuff, and then you end up having a stroke. And then what happened after that? How did the grounding help you with the stroke?
My doctor, Dr. Nappig, he couldn't believe he didn't think I was going to be able to walk. I mean, it took me out. I couldn't talk. My right arm, I had no control over it. I couldn't walk. And the nurses were super good. I went a week on one floor, then I went into rehab for a week. And the nurses were real cool because I believe in grounding. So they'd take me outside and I'd go up to that tree at the hospital and I'd ground. Lo and behold, they were grounding with me, you know. And I went home because I got a dog, and I knew he was wondering where the hell I was at. But this voice come up on me when I was in the hospital, Lord knows, and it said, "I'm going to show my glory through you." And I'm thinking, I ain't gonna lie to you. I said, "Man, can you start showing your glory through somebody else?" You know.
Yeah, I can understand that one. Yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah, I'm beat down anyway. How a guy can go through so much in a short period of time. I mean, you're talking years, but no, as I grounded, I ain't had. I'm healing. I ain't 100%, but I'm a lot farther than I was. So I'm getting to where I can play guitar again. And just a lot of things in my life. But no, it's in the grounding. The tree's the key. The other grounding deals are good. Anytime you ground, you basically, it's good for you. But that's baby food, baby steps. When you go to the tree, that's what connects you with creation. Him.
Well, that's just fascinating because you went to the trees. Something motivated you to go to the trees, and that has helped you to get through a massive heart attack, a stroke.
Homelessness. I know. It took me 3 years, but I'm living on the west side.
What's that?
I said it took me 3 years from going homeless to living in the projects to moving to the ghetto to living on the west side.
There you go. So it's helping you out. Whatever your interaction, your grounding with the tree. And is there a specific tree, or does it matter?
I go to the same tree every day at this house. When I was on 12th Street, I went to there's a tree in the backyard. I always went to it. But I've gone, like I go to my son's, I go over there and ground. They're all connected. Science says they're all connected around the world, underground. All the trees are connected. I believe it. I call it the spirit of the trees. They're like that video you was showing when we started where I was showing how to ground, and there was a high pitch there. Man, every time if I go outside, I hear that, man. It's the trees. See, they vibrate at a high frequency.
No kidding. Tell us more about this high pitch and this high frequency. What are you hearing? What are you sensing?
Man, it's just, I'm so low voice, but it's just a high pitched squeal kind of. And it's strange because when I go out there, you don't hear it. And then when I put my hands on a tree for a minute, by God, there it is. If I take my hands off of it, it dissipates. You see, something happened about a year and a half ago. My hands, I was grounding, and my hands started to burn really bad, like they were on fire, and they weren't. And I thought, well, hell, I must have got them in some chemical. And it was just my hands. And this went on for about 2 weeks. And it was so bad, I'd have to put them in cold water. And I didn't know what the heck it was. Then they peeled, and just the hands, just thick skin. I never had feel like that. I had some flakes, you know, and now I got energy in my hands. It's really strong now. They're called healing hands, and I looked it up. It goes back to the shamanic you were talking about. Am I your typical shaman? No, I'm just Robbie, but I felt like he wanted me to heal people. And I went and watched it on TV, and these guys have these big shows, nothing against them, but that ain't me, man. I told the creator, I said, hey, man, if you want me to do that, if that's what these hands are, then I want to do it where I'll walk up and shake a man's hand. And he don't even know it was me. I can't do that, make a big show out of it. That's not me. That's not my nature. I've always created stuff. We did a community jam. I don't mind standing in the shadows. It's the creating, watching something you created come together that fills me, not the glory or the hype, you know. And it come from the ground. And now I go out and ground. Boy, them hands get hot. You know, it doesn't bother me. I learned that spirits are in many things, and they're your brothers and sisters. And when you recognize them as brothers and sisters in creation, you become one with creation, which is the Father. And that's what I believe Yeshua was. He was teaching them spirituality. He hung out. He did grow up in the synagogues. That was their religion then. But you know, when you ground, it clears your mind. The spirit can actually talk to you. And you know, am I to believe that the Creator only loved one race, one people? Nah, He loved all creation. You see what I'm saying? When I looked at the civilizations, and when I did that, I was looking at war tactics. The Romans, how they fought. Genghis Khan, he's more guerrilla. And I noticed something. They all talked about the flood, but they made it about their civilization. And I thought that was strange. You know, in time, I was over on the other side a long time, but I believe they dropped me in this slot here. I probably don't look like I was gone 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We know that 4 guys stand on a street corner. 4 guys see an accident. 4 guys have a different story, so they be in the same ballpark. Each one of them's story's different. That means they're on their own timelines. We know we're swapping timelines because of the Mandela effect. Look at them. You can't make that up. Yeah, I believe there's 2 earths. We go back to energy. Positive, negative, good, bad, light, dark, healing, pain. There's always a polar opposite, a mirror effect. And I believe there's 2 earths. How did we go from win-win-win to lose-lose-lose? Paradigm shift. How did they do a paradigm shift? Because it takes a lot of energy to shift dimensions, okay? To go from one to the other. And they're only 1% of the evil ones. It goes back to Newton's 3rd law, action, reaction. The evil ones, they put out a negative action. We, the people, we, the many, the power of the people, we pushed against it with low vibrational negative energy. When you push against negative with negative, you increase the negative power. That's how you do the paradigm shift.
I just want to say hi to my right-hand man, Sheldon. Thank you for showing up.
You're good. Fear, anger, hate. Remember all the riots and everything? Yeah. Creating what? Chaos, fear. These are low vibrational energies. And that's how they did it. A paradigm shift. Back to it. I believe we're each on our own timelines. And I believe there's many timelines for each of us. And it's possible for me to swap in another timeline. Now, these things are so close together, and gradual, you don't really notice it. Us that were alive in the 80s, we're noticing quite a bit, you know. The younger you ain't noticing, but
you call this place Hades.
Huh?
You calling this place Hades?
Yeah. Well,
It does seem like hell at times, doesn't it?
well, the scriptures, they say, and the old earth will pass away. He doesn't say destroyed. And
No.
things that he destroyed, he says he destroyed. He says it pass away and there'll be a new earth. I believe that the low vibrational people with low vibrational energies are going to pass with the old earth. And that to me is going to be helpful. See, I look at heaven and hell and the keys to death as metaphors. I believe that men of power, where there's power, there's corruption. I believe they put that in there. And still fear. That's one of the greatest negative energies there is fear, hate, you know.
Yeah.
It's like when I went to church, man, I'd be all happy in the morning when the girls were little, my daughters. And we get them all dressed up in Sunday uh, clothes. And me and the wife, we were all happy and everybody. And we go to church. Well, man, the whole time I'm in church, they tell me about my sins. What a wicked, evil person you are. You're going to go to hell. You're a sinner. You need to come up and get saved. Man, I ain't shitting you. When I got home, I want to shoot myself. I was so wicked. You know, they always have you looking at the negative parts of your life, you know,
Right. Fear,
and
condemnation, and
yeah, and we never look at the good things that we do. You see, when I died, a lot of people don't know this. After I lost everything in my life, I mean everything, even my life. The wife, she had to go find herself. She did, and somebody else is dead. But I'm over that. But yeah, it was so bad that I finally told the creator, I said, man, just drop me in the pit of Hades. Put me in hell. I've had enough. But you can't change one thing in me. That love I've had for you since I was a little kid. And my whole life started to change. I don't know. We look at ourselves as being unworthy to go to him. We are. We are sinners. We are unworthy. He's the one that finds worthiness in our heart. You know, you got two types of people, takers and givers. Those that are about themselves and those that are about others. When you leave this place, there is no color. You either leave positive energy or negative energy. I know that going below, I have gone below to the dead. I'm gifted. I got many gifts now, but it's weird. I didn't know the wicked, evil ones. They're in someplace else. I ain't able to access that. And see, I never believed in none of this stuff. I grew up Christian. I mean, none of it. But I've told mom things that there's no way I could have known because I didn't exist, you know. And it's like to pagans and the religious guys, you know, two guys in the hospital, two dads. The Christians are over here and the pagans are over here. The two dads are dying. They die. These guys over here are grieving. These guys are grieving. 10 minutes later, they both pop up. The Christian, the preacher, he's doing a dance. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. The pagan, it's magic. It's magic. I believe the same thing, magic. I tell people I believe in fairies, I believe in dragons, and I believe in unicorns. I never did before, but I do now because unicorns is mentioned in the Bible 8 times in the Old Testament. You can Google that. Yeah, there's just different dimensions. But back to that time deal, man created time. That's why nothing lines up. Truly, you know, the biggest book in that I think in the Bible was Genesis 6, when the sons of God, the Watchers, came down and bred with the daughters of men, created giants, men of renown. God repents. He's sorry that he even created man, put him on earth. Man, that's a big deal. But there's one day I was looking at something, I didn't even know this word, and the word came into my mind, eon. And I thought, what the hell's an eon? I Googled it. It means an undetermined amount of time. It could be 1 billion years. I believe that there was many different Earth ages. That's why the carbon dating says 5 million or 10 million years old. And you're going, huh, we only been around 4,000 years. No, I do believe in evolution as far as the earth and mankind in knowledge. I don't believe we came from monkeys and nothing like that. I just don't believe that. I believe we're all part of the ocean as a human being, because when you cry, it tastes like salt. When you sweat, it's salt. We're made up of salt water. One thing about Genesis 6 and the giants, that all fits. What I couldn't understand is when he had the flood to wipe them out. I could see wiping out the humans, but I couldn't see wiping out the animals. Why did he destroy the animals? What did they do? You know? Well, when I looked at the Greek mythology and I seen the half man, half whatever he was, I thought, it's not coming in my head. The giants, the Nephilim, were having sex with the animals. Manipulation of DNA. That Clash of the Titans. The war between the gods. That was the war between the Nephilim for power. You know, it says in scripture, I try to take science and scripture, I try to back it up together. His words, I believe, are in scripture, but I believe there's a lot of manipulation. I look at Nimrod, the first world leader, a giant, half angel, half man. Do you really believe he was building a tower to Babel? It's called a Tower of Babel, but he's building a tower to heaven to go, God. Evidently, it was going to happen. God confuses their languages. So God kind of felt threatened a little bit, you could call him that. But why would they build it in a valley? Wouldn't you go to the highest point? We got pretty high buildings, and he ain't too worried about them. No, I believe he's building a teleport. He was half angel, so he knew things man didn't know, to different dimensions. You got the same thing today with CERN. It's funny, the scriptures say in the day of the Son of Man will be the same as the day of Noah. Manipulation of DNA in all things, even our plants and stuff. Yeah. I believe the earth is flat. I know. But I believe that. I believe there's a dome over it. I watched that SpaceX rocket hit the firmament. A piece of it broke off and was hanging up there just spinning. I believe that. I believe they can't get out of here. And I believe they're letting stuff in here, entities and stuff, spirits, energy. I don't even look at the devil as the devil anymore. I look at him as really extreme negative energy. I look at everything as energy, because life is energy. And science backs it up, you know. Even if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, this giant massive explosion exploded. Everything in the universe landed perfectly where it's supposed to. What keeps the balance? He keeps the balance. Scientists say energy can't be created, neither can it be destroyed. Why is that? He's energy. He's energy, consciousness, and balance. I believe that. So and here's another thing. He never wanted us to worship him like a god. He was totally against that. Idol worshiping God. He wanted to walk with man like he did in the beginning. And the war ain't between the dark and the light. The dark and the light are balanced. They were in the beginning of creation. God was dark before he was light. He spoke light into existence. They're balanced. What men do in the dark is evil, you know. It ain't light and dark. It's negative and positive, good and bad. And sometimes that kind of aggravates me a little bit. But yeah, I believe that the 5D that we're going to swap into is high vibrational, high frequency energy. And why? Because spirit's going to be there. This is where he's going to walk with man again. Does he know you're a sinner? Yeah, he knows it. Is he like Santa Claus, making a list and checking it twice? No, I don't believe so. You know, even Paul in the New Testament said charity gets rid of a lot of sin. And that I thought I always had to go to the altar and pray, but anyway, charity gets rid of a lot of sin. Or like Yeshua, love thy enemy. Why would you love thy enemy? Energy. You don't feed him no energy. See? I
Sure.
believe that's what he's saying. Of course, they didn't know what we know today about energies.
Right. Well,
That's just
it's fascinating your philosophy and your how you see the world today. Can you maybe tell us a little bit what do you do in order to what are the rituals to grounding to a tree and communicating with the tree?
I basically go out there. If it's cold, I can take my shoes off. Sometimes I go out there and sit and I just put my feet on a tree. It's just grounding the tree, but I more or less meditate, divine energy, light energy in, negative energy out. And that's pretty much what I do. Now, when I get to channeling and I start channeling, I talk to the spirit of the earth. I thank her for, yeah. And when I look at the Native Americans, man, that's why they were so spiritual. They were connected. My mom's got Cherokee Indian in her. She's from Oklahoma. My dad, he was from Minnesota. My great-great-granddad come from Trondheim, Norway. And a lot of the people that I'm meeting have Viking descent and Native American. It's crazy. Yeah. And then the healing deal. I mean, you can't make it up. It's real hard for us to believe in ourselves anymore. And so I spend a lot of time with the homeless and the youth that are in trouble. I don't, a lot of people laugh at these kids or people in general that are on meth. Well, let's be honest, society put them on meth. How's that? ADD medicine. I believe the kids were growing. That's why they were hyper. Myself, I couldn't keep shoes on the kids. I couldn't keep shoes on the grandkids when they're little.
Right.
They were growing. And when I look at a society and I see they put them on Vyvanse, Adderall, Ritalin, these are all synthetic meth. Look them up, meth. And when the kid gets old enough that he's 18, he can't be on his mom and dad's insurance. That's some high dollar medicine. Even going to the doctor's high dollar. So what do? They turn to the street because they can't function without that. They've been on it all their lives. Is it the parents' fault? No. It's the educational system, because usually it was the teacher that told us, your kid's got ADD, he's go to the doctor, get on some medicine. And
so hey, listen, Julio's got a question here. I don't know if it's to me. I mean, I have pretty strong opinions about all this stuff. But my impression is nobody really wants to hear what I have to say. So, what's your views, Robbie, on the destruction coming and being incepted into the world through various measures? Do you understand that?
I don't worry about being accepted in the world. I believe if you're watching the news, you're feeding your own destiny. If you're taking what they got, see, I don't watch the news or nothing because I don't want to be in that flick. You know what I'm saying? When the old earth passes, I don't believe it affects me, whatever's going on, because, like I said, the timelines, different timelines, and I don't concentrate on it because I believe that you manifest your own destiny. Okay. If you sit there and grind on stuff and grind on stuff and grind on stuff, especially stuff they're feeding you, it's a pretty good chance you're going to live that. And I don't believe I'm not going to live it. I keep telling myself, I want to leave here so bad and go back where I come. Not because I hate everybody, but there's so much pain and hurt in your heart. It's terrible. The way people, I get upset on churches mainly because the homeless. And they say, well, they got institutions to handle that. Well, ain't none of them people ever stayed in the Salvation Army homeless shelter. Most of the homeless won't even go there. It's that bad. The people that are homeless, they don't want nothing from you. Then you got some of them that steal and stuff, quite a few of them. But hard times make hard ways. They're survivals. It's an instinct inside you to survive. And that, if that means surviving, like that one I had living with me, he stole my rings, about $1,200 worth. And I like them rings, but I'm human. So in natural reaction, I was pissed off. And I got my board and I said, you need to leave now. Well, he packed pretty quick and he was out the door. He couldn't believe I was kicking him out in the cold. I'm thinking, really? You took my rings? And then as I sat there and thought about it, I said, that's all he knows because he's surviving, I just don't look at him that way. No, you got bad fish and everything. Look at the churches, some of the stuff that goes on. So it's in everything.
Well, Julio, if my opinion about this, about the, what do you say again? What's your view of the destruction coming and the inception of the world through various measures? I'm not quite sure what you're asking there for my end things. My study of scriptures is very clear that right after the flood, there's a promise that God would never curse the land again. Also, there's a world without ends. And then if you look at the New Testament, I am what is called a full preterist. I am somebody who believes in fulfillment eschatology. In other words, everything in the New Testament ended with this destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Every single prophecy that Jesus had nothing to do with us, had all to do with his own generation, his own disciples, and his own apostles. He promised that everything would happen in their generation, and there are endless verses in there in the New Testament. I know it sounds pretty radical, but it's not radical. If you study from the very beginning of Matthew all the way through, you'll see that's what the clear message is. Now, is it Roman providence and it's all Roman propaganda or not? Who knows? Is this world cyclical with, ups and downs? Yeah, absolutely. And will there be something that may happen again? There's pretty overwhelming evidence this place has cataclysmic events in which a great upheaval happens and a whole bunch of things change and the end of life and all kind of stuff. But I don't believe this place is designed to end. It is designed to change. And there are aeons or eras, and when there's the end of an age, that there is a new change, like a change. There's a dramatic change that happens. And why do I believe that? I don't actually believe that. I mean, that's just overwhelming geological and archaeological evidence of the fact. So, but I don't think. I think what they did is they took the scriptures and like you said, they hijacked the message, the Roman Empire and the imperial cult that they created, and turned it into, instead of a faith of love, to a faith of fear. Exactly. And a very powerful tool against us, and it keeps us in constant fear of the future. But that's how I see things. Now, are something bad going to happen? Well, listen, that's the agenda. If you look at, the Georgia Guidestones and the very first commandment, they took it down last year as a ritual last summer. And the government did that. It's clear the government did that. They never caught anybody or prosecuted anybody because the government itself did it, and it was a ritual. But in that first commandment said to reduce and maintain the world's population. To maintain the world's population below 500 million, perfect balance with nature. That means that 8 billion of it has to go for their agenda to happen. Does that mean the world's going to end? No. Is there going to be a lot of upheaval and terrible things are going to happen? Yeah. In this creation, there is, once again, a dualistic creation of there's good and evil. darkness and light, night and day. And there's no way getting around it, and there's no way to change that. So I also am a person that strongly believe in limited free will, and predeterminism is a big part of our existence. Everything is already put into play. And so like what happened through Robbie in his life was happening in my life. These are things that are in everyone's life. They were put into play, and there's only so much that we can do about the circumstances that we're put in. You know, the environment, the people around us, our families, the people we end up having relationships with. It's the limited free will we have is the choices that we make on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis about do we, for instance, do I, when I say limited, it's very limited. It doesn't mean there's not any, we have choices is what we have. We have choices, but it's not necessarily the same thing as free will. Choices are, you have a decision to like Rob had a decision tonight. Was I going to join Mike to do a show? And I had the same decision. Do I have to do a show with Rob? Or do I say, I'm too tired, or whatever? You make excuses not to do stuff. But I've learned the more you operate in the self-centered free will idea, the more pain comes along with it. So, and the more, if you just go, like Rob said earlier, go with the flow, it makes life a lot more easier in the long run, if that makes sense. And so, and obviously the flow for Rob led him to a tree, which led him to some healing and grounding. And I just find this fascinating because there seems to be something that's been a universal message that's happened throughout the eons and the ages, and this relationship that we have had from trees. Now, I'll tell you something, and most people don't know anything about me who listen to me, but I've been doing this for 10 years, and I have many different incarnations on the internet. But 2015, I was one of the very first people on the internet talking about the flat earth, interviewing people. I knew all the big shots, from who you name it, from Rob Skiba to
love him, Rob Skiba.
Of course, he passed away. He died a couple of years ago. I don't know if you knew that. And I think that because he took the poke.
No.
One thing you can't say, because the last time I did it, they stopped me from posting anything, banned me for a month last month from my original channel. So, or my second.
Did you study that at all? What that is, as far as those nanobots, electronic robots, microscopic ones?
Yeah, well, if we go any further, I do not want. If anybody wants to know my position on things, I have a BitChute channel, which I haven't done anything in a year, but I have hundreds of videos on this, and I spent thousands of hours on it. And I was one of those a few thousand people in the internet world that were warning people on a day-to-day basis of what was going on and what was going to happen and what's in those things that you can't mention. And that's the reason why they took down my channel along with thousands of other channels on the 6th of January 2021. And I bring this up not to remind people of something that it really did happen. And when everyone's talking about what happened in Washington, D.C., there are thousands of us that are trying to warn our neighbors and to love our neighbors ourselves. And we were, and I'm still censored to this day. I cannot, I used to have thousands of subs. I used to have thousands, and now I can't even get to 400. I mean, it took forever to get 300. And that was like a big celebration. It's funny. I watch the numbers, right? And I understand I'm not necessarily the most likable dude, and a lot of my things that I say are controversial, and so a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say. But saying that, I watch it. It's like I'll get 5 new subs, and then 7 all of a sudden disappear. Then I get 2 more, and then 1 disappears. And I just watch how they mess with the numbers, and at the end of the day, it's never been about the numbers. Anyways, I believe that each and every one that's in this room right now is a valuable human being that's worth a lot. And if it's just one of us that, that was my mentality is, if I was able to save one person's life in the past 3 years, then it was worth it. And all the stuff that I go through, you know what I mean? Because it's never been about the money. It's always been about the truth. And it's always about, the way and truth in life, to get back to God and to be as close to God. And I've found out that God was always with me. I just was totally blocked from, if you name all the things that block us, from the environmental things to the things that are put in our heads, like television. I totally, Anton LaVey made it very clear about television. He said it was Satan's altar, and he wouldn't even let his own kids watch television. I was raised on television, and I think many people probably in this room have been raised on television. And people don't realize the spiritual and intellectual damage that it did to us. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you one person who did know that, and it was Anton LaVey, the starter of the Church of Satan in 1966 there in San Francisco. He made it very clear that that's what it was about. He wouldn't even let his own kids watch it. So, and I just saying that, so my first 20 years of my life, it was survival mode. The next 20 years of my life is recovering from the first 20 years. And now this next 20 years, my third 20 years, it's been about learning who I am spiritually and all other aspects. So, and it's a journey, and it is part of what it is. Rob, I'm one of these guys that thinks that we live strongly in as called a reincarnation soul trap matrix, in which if we don't get our act right, we're coming back here over and over again. Now, the lessons, I don't believe, are the same things what New Agers think and what Hindus think and everybody else thinks, because I don't believe that we're here to learn lessons, except for one thing, and that's how not to come back here.
Right.
To come from here and go beyond the pleroma, past the stars, and back to as the Native Americans say, our happy hunting grounds, where we came from, or where we're supposed to be. And that's how I see it. It's a belief system that I can't prove to anybody, except I will tell you this much: if you look at everything that's going on around us, it's especially what comes out of the vast majority of the internet, the vast majority of what's coming out of the television, and the vast majority of what's coming out of governments and religion and everything. They're all designed to crush our spirit and to put us in a very negatively charged environment, and never to really come close to our potential. And this is when I'm listening to you, it's like going along with everything I've been trying to share with people, and that is that we are bipedal walking batteries. You brought it up about salt water and how you need salt water for a battery in its own right. And that, this place is a giant battery. 70% of it is salt water on the surface. We have a cathode and an anode, the moon and the sun, right? We have, when it has a positive charge and negative charge, and the moon produces a cold heat, or they call it cold heat, which is a contradiction. But what happens when you're under a full moon, it is colder standing outside under a full moon than in the shade. Whereas opposite, during the day, it is cooler in the shade than is out in the sun. Okay. And this much more constant, the duality of this creation, right?
Right.
Fascinating thing is too, when you look at the sun and the moon, and this is when we have eclipses, is it because they're the same damn size, and they'll try to tell you that it's distance and space and all that, but that's number magic. And you can say that's 93 million miles away, the sun, or you can say it's 23 miles away. And the problem is, they'll talk about trigonometry and all this other stuff, and how you can determine it, and when you really break it down, you say, no, you can't. There's not enough surface area for one point and another to really determine. My favorite of the deception is called light years. Light years, I love that one. And as we're looking at light right now, and it says, it is, it's 10,000 light years away. Well, first of all, we still haven't been able to determine what a light year is today. It still has a debate to this day. There's no way to determine what a light year is. It's all group consensus and it's sorcery. And in fact, I think most of what we are suffering from is sorcery, the illusions
Amen. That's
that
right.
are put in our heads. And so, if you are having this personal experience, and you're telling us the truth, which I have no reason to, at this point, question. Well, he just dropped off. The question, Rob. Hopefully, he'll come back. I have no reason to question Rob. That means if he charged himself and healed himself through the trees, and he was, being, doing this really cool, connecting with, this battery, if you will, called it the tree in its own right. Yeah, there he is. Things happen.
Glitch.
Yeah, things happen, man. Things happen. So I'm going to read some of these comments. I agree with that. The H, yeah, is damn. Yeah, I know. Listen, I know numerous people who are magnetic because I tested them. They were the ones who were brave enough to do it, and I also know numerous people that have been damaged from it, and because I did believe the foundation of. That thing that has the two serpents, just because I can't even mention that word without being banned. That thing with two serpents and all that, we're dealing with something. Let's think of snake venom, and the foundation of our system is based on eugenics, first and foremost. But it comes back to the Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, people react, and you already had the solution, right? And that's exactly what they do. So that's how they manipulate us. Now, saying all these negative things, right, which are real. So then what is and here's the other thing about like with the New Age thing and the New Age bent and all that kind of stuff. It's all about positive thinking, right? But the problem is positive thinking, it really is a form of being delusional thinking. Now, a proper functioning battery, if we will, and if we are bipedal batteries, there's a positive and negative. It's you can't avoid one.
That's the other.
And expect to function and see the world properly. You just can't do it. So what you need to do is to be able to have enough light in you and enough courage in you to look into the darkness, accept what's really going on, and then so that you can readjust yourself and go right down a more the balanced direction or whatever, right? So here we go back with this like this whole tree and it being like it functions like cables to a battery, if you will, like neurons to this of a giant living system that people call Gaia or whatever. It's, you can call it whatever you want, and you can get all wrapped up in the New Age stuff and all the nuances, and you don't have to join any group, by the way. That's the thing that I want to tell everybody. You don't have to join the group. You don't have to join any cult. You can take the truth that's found in many different ideas and apply it into your life. You don't have to belong to a group. You don't have to call yourself this, that, and the other. I like to call myself like everyone else. We are children of the light. We all are. We can't function in the dark. Although I know a couple guys that say that they have night vision of some level or another. But the fact of the matter is, none of us can do a darn thing, without a fire or without a flashlight in the middle of the night. We're children of the light. That's who we are. We're children of the day. And
no, Yeshua said it best. He said, "I come to the dark, that I might shed light on the dark."
Well, yeah, it's like the candlestick. It's worthless if it's hidden under a bushel or under your bed, right? It needs to be out there in the darkness so you can see what's before you, right? So you can make the right choices. And so
it don't take much light. You take a room that's pitch black, dark, and you walk in there with one of them little birthday candles of light.
Yeah.
Look how the dark moves away from it. Light's powerful. Sure is.
So there's it's and yeah, and well, the thing is, when you shine the light, and let's talk about the past 3 years. When you shine the light into the darkness of what's been going on, now you can make right decisions, like avoiding what they're offering you. Right? You say,
Right.
okay, this is not for me. I'm going to go a different route. Now, let's talk about a different route. Then this is, and by the way, if you're a Bigfoot researcher or you're in the paranormal or all the, this is so relevant to what we're talking about, but it's hard to see right away because this guy's talking, Robbie is talking about, grounding, walking around his bare feet and touching a tree and showing reverence, respect to the creator and all that, and just being absorbing that positive energy from that tree or life force essence. By the way, I've been trying to share with people, Robbie, and you haven't been paying attention to my show because you didn't even know about my show until I reached out to you last week. And I think I don't even know if you actually even seen one of my videos yet. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. But the fact is, what I've been talking about is that many of these spiritual beings that manifest, and they use the life essence, the force of the trees for them to manifest. Okay. And this
It
is
makes sense. I mean,
so go ahead.
well, you can take all the power you want and connect it to your breaker box. But unless you got a ground rod in the earth, you don't get no power. Your spirit's the same way. How do you energize your spirit? By grounding it. So let's say I took some
Like a
meds.
tree. A tree is a
Right.
perfect, right? Is it grounded?
Because it goes up on the earth through the water table, you know. The ones that took the no-no and didn't know it. All they got to do is ground to the tree. 'Cause the tree heals. And sea salt. I take sea salt baths. You can literally, if you take a sea salt bath, you sit down in it, you can literally feel your energy field around your whole body. And no kidding. It's crazy. The ancients used to track thousands of miles to bathe in the sea to get rid of disease and illness.
Well, California's a mess, brother. You're right. But
Yeah.
honestly, as bad as that is, I got a brother. My big brother lives in Northern California, so I get my reports as well. So it's not much better there. But honestly, it's not that much better anywhere around here. You know what I mean? We're all in a very much a predicament. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, what's the harm to listening to this guy, Robbie, talk about his experience? And what if he's right? What if not only can the spirit realm use the life force of these trees to manifest and to travel from the lower world to the middle world to the upper world, what if we can actually heal ourselves as well through these trees? How far-fetched is this? Is this have any connection with ancient wisdom that it's just been simply revealed to Robbie? Amazingly enough, I'm grateful for it. If it is the case that it's true, and I don't have no reason to doubt it, then maybe this is what our ancestors knew as well. Maybe they knew this as well. Maybe they knew. Of course, in a time of a lightning storm, it's probably not a good idea to be under a tree. But most time, was it such a bad idea to be? If we look at our ancient past, our distant ancient past, when trees were much larger. I mean, it seems like we might even probably had a possibility at one time of actually building whole cities or villages within the trees. And just kind of like Avatar, like the movie Avatar, he got was a Carpenter or whatever the author or who the director was. I can't think of his name now. I think it was Carpenter. He got a lot of his ideas from indigenous populations in Canada and North America. People don't even realize that, it wasn't an original thoughts. Most of his were not original thoughts. So is there a possibility, especially if you're a Bigfoot researcher, right? And we know anybody that's been doing it for a while knows there's a connection with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and trees. All right.
Yeah.
What if there's like, what if we became, I'm not saying worshiping the trees. I'm not saying, worshiping anything else except the creator, but utilizing the trees just as they are, not only to heal ourselves, but to gain wisdom that cannot be gained any other way. I know this sounds far-fetched. I'm not going to say crazy, but far-fetched only because of our modern Greco-Roman slave education.
Yeah.
And so what if Robbie's onto something? Another piece of the puzzle that we're working on in this channel. What if he's onto something? And what could it harm us and myself to do what Robbie says? And, it's like for me, I'm thinking about, it's going to be 45 degrees tomorrow. It's supposed to be sunny. So, if I could get, maybe before I go to the dentist, because I have to go to the dentist finally, maybe this time, although who knows, the spirits last time stopped it from happening. But what if, I spend like a half an hour, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, my bare feet.
I tell everybody 3 minutes. 3 minutes, because it takes a little bit of time to get grounded. A minute or two.
So what happens if you do it for an hour?
I do it for hours. Sometimes I sit out there. I'll stay out there 2-3 hours. If I go to Walmart or I'm around a bunch of people, depending on how the energy is, I've come home and grounded 3 times in a day just to shed the energy, the negative energy, to get back to where I'm balanced. Because
it's funny. It would be interesting. It would be funny if, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would be interesting to see that maybe the spirit stopped me 2 weeks ago on the 20th of February. We had all those amazing pictures that I filmed. People were paying attention to what I'm doing. I had a really supernatural, spiritual day in which there was a lot of interference from outside spiritually, right? In which the dentist appointment didn't work out, and then my doctor's appointment didn't work out. And it's a fascinating story how something rotated two of my tires hubcaps over my the valve stems. And so by the time I was supposed to go to the doctor's, and I ended up having only 10 pounds of pressure in my tires, I had to go to the tire man and get them filled instead of going to the doctor's appointment, because I didn't want to end up having a blowout on the way there. But anyways, what if I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what if my mouth gets healed, my tooth, from just grounding? What would that say? And what if there's a possibility in some way or some, you know what I mean? Because they say that, well, one thing that you brought up is that your blood, to bring more, what was the case study they said again about the grounding and what it did to your blood?
They said when you just stepping on the earth barefoot, they said it on the vascular deal, cardiac. They said your blood cells get coated where they're slick, they don't stick, which gives you better flow through your body.
So in other words, those blood cells become nice and round again, like the shape of an orb, like the shape of the sun, like the shape of a tree ring. And what if, what else am I going to say? So it's you better circulation, blood flow.
It's funny, the people that I've encountered, now I've had some of them that, even though they know it, I told them over and over, they don't even try it, but I've had some people try it and they were amazed. The same thing happened. Their hands were like it was sucking it into the trees, what they told me. That's what it feels like. But it's more magnetism.
Well, what is magnetism, but also I wonder if it's the spirits that was living in the trees. I mean, I've heard numerous times where people have been healed by, or at least they claim that they've had healing through these spirits. Now, as somebody who's a Christian, the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me, is, it's demon possession. But how do I know that? And maybe I'm completely wrong. And maybe this is more bad information that has been given to me by the men that walk around in suit and ties. That tie that inverted obelisk that points to, it's Osiris, is the symbol of Osiris' penis is pointing straight to their own genitals, yoked around their neck, symbolic of being a slave to the empire, the Roman Empire.
Slave to the empire.
So maybe their brain, just like, because what I've discovered is that every one of the pastors that I've dealt with, priests, they're wrong about every damn thing, including what was in that book. I'm not just saying it to be mean-hearted or judgmental. I mean, I'd be more than happy to have a debate with the Pope. Because
a heartbeat.
Bury him with his lies. And you know what? Not because I want to hurt him, but because, man, we got to stop this madness before the madness is leading to the dying. Here's another thing, Robbie, I do believe is part of my mission this year is to try to warn people about the dying of the trees. I'm seeing the trees die in droves in my town. I do believe a lot of it has to do with the FIVEG and the Wi-Fi, and I also believe they're dumping in the air. And I think that we're in a total Olson, and there's certain entities that want this place. They want this place to be destroyed. And certain groups out there, they feel that in order to do this, they have to commit all this atrocities in order to bring their God back. Well, the day merge, I don't think we want it anymore, and we don't want him. We don't want that entity. You know that dragon that they talk about in the Old Testament, the dragon that they all worship. So, and by the way, they believed it was a real dragon. I mean, Robbie brought that up as well. Anyways, if anybody's interested, I'm going to leave. Not that it happens. If it's all right with you, if I invite people, Robbie, they want to join us in the conversation. Is it okay, Robbie? I
don't mind. I don't mind at all.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. Usually that doesn't happen because I know people are not really in a position to do it. But I also feel it's my responsibility as a host to share the opportunity for anybody who wants to come into the conversation and talk.
And I learned stuff from them. Not an argument type deal, but I learned things because it makes me think in different directions.
Well, here's another thing, Robbie, is us who are Bigfoot researchers. What would happen? Those of us who go into the field one way or the other. I don't tromp in the woods anymore because of MS, but I still hang out the edges of the woods, and I don't even have to go that far. I got a feeling if I just went to that tree in my backyard and just rounded to it, I wouldn't be surprised. I ended up seeing something more positive instead of negative. What if that's the case? What if I end up, or say you're a Bigfoot researcher, and if you're still sticking around, any of you guys who are Bigfoot researchers, what if before you went out in the woods, before you did anything, you spent 5-10 minutes grounding yourself to the trees? I wonder what kind of experiences you would have. Would you have more positive ones? Would you have more sightings of certain things? Would you have how do you get to know what would happen unless you try it?
Right.
Because I think there's, we're missing the point about a lot of the things. What we're doing is people who research, say, Bigfoot or cryptids or spirits and all that. We're all out for the thrill of being, I think at times, and not always, but a lot of times I wonder if that's what we're really out there, is just to be scared. Or is there something spiritually that the Creator's trying to reach out to us to say, hey, listen, there's something bigger and greater. That delusion that you grew up in and that your parents grew up in, and I don't know, that's exactly what it was. And there's something better. And I'm trying to lead you back to it. And, and of course we hear this all the time through religion and all that, So, but, if you guys don't want to join, that's fine, because we're getting close to 2 hours anyways. Robbie, you did a good job this is your second interview?
No, that's the first one. I appreciate you bringing me on, man. I actually had a good time.
I just, saw a dude that's willing to have enough guts to go on the TikTok channel and talk about grounding and to a tree, not just to the ground, not just walking around in your bare feet, but actually grounding himself to a tree. And I'm just like, okay, maybe somebody's trying to tell me something outside of Robbie.
There's a lot to it. I tell people to go around for 3 minutes a day, 7 days. Tell me what happens. And I've had people tell me, they said, I feel so much better.
Well,
You know?
that's another thing too, man. If it's telling me maybe I need to go move further south, man. This cold weather is a killer on me. But
Me too. Oof. It's old age. All them bones were broke, man. That arthritis and cold air.
it's like once you get to 50 or 40s, it's just things start happening, man. But yeah, no problem, man. If you can't, Julio, if you can't make it into, I'm just offering. There's no pressure on anybody joining us. I'm just
And if
appreciating.
they can't, I've had a lot of people say they're stoked up. They can't get to a tree because they're so in such bad shape. I tell them straight up, man, if you can get a big bowl or pot, get some warm water and some sea salt, put it in the pot, soak your feet in sea salt. That's going to help. It's better than nothing. And I'm a firm believer in them sea salt baths. I take one a week. So,
they say that's really good for. Oh, you use Epsom salts, or what do you use? Sea salt.
Epsom salt is magnesium. I use regular sea salt. Comes in a little round containers, just like the regular salt. I use a quarter. I get 4 baths out of one of them. I use a quarter of it approximately. I don't have to measure it out. But
what about Himalayan?
They say that's the best. It's high dollar. But yeah, one time I've used it. I didn't notice any difference between it and the sea salt. It seemed the same to me, but the Himalayan was really expensive. But they swear by it. I mean, I didn't have an experience. And maybe I didn't use it long enough. I went through a bag, probably in a month. But
wouldn't it be just fascinating, Robbie, if it turned into like 3 years? The next thing you know, you see, what is that guy doing in the park? He's just like holding it. He's just touching that tree. What's he doing in his bare feet? Touching the tree? Oh, he's healing himself. He's reconnecting with the creator and all that it is. I think there's a point to all this. I really do. I might be going down the wrong direction, but it might lead us to the proper direction as far as our big picture. What is the purpose of life? Why are we here? Why are we going through all this stuff? There's got to be more meaning to this life. There's only so much entertainment that I can stomach anymore. I can't stand listening to radio anymore. I can't stand watching movies. I can't stand 99.9% of what's on the internet. And by the way, I understand that 99.9% of the internet and the rest of the world can't stand me either. But I understand it's quite reasonable. But the thing is, I don't know. I'm in a bigger quest for things. I want to know more about what's going on for real. How did we all get to this point?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, on TikTok, I got 18,000 followers. On one of my videos, it was like 228,000 views. But and you're going to get negative. I welcome the negative because you can't have negative or positive without negative. But I probably can count on both hands 10 bad ones that I got. Stupid, that were against me. Negative, real negative. And that's pretty good at 18,000. I can't explain because I figured I'd run up against a heck of a wall, know, and I haven't.
I have a different experience because I go much deeper into this stuff. You know what I mean? So,
well, you research,
and I show images that people don't want to see or don't want to accept, and I talk about things that most people don't want to hear or don't want to accept. But I honestly think it's the next stage of development of one's personal evolution.
Yeah.
And, between your brains and your spirit is that you have to become more tolerant and accepting of truth. And truth is a bitter pill to swallow for every one of us. Is can you imagine the person who's in the worst position in life is like, the dean of some college, to be the president of the United States, to be the Pope. These people are so ensnared and so trapped in this system, this matrix, that I just can't imagine the internal nightmare that they're going through. And I don't want to go back down that path. I don't want to go back in the matrix, Robbie.
No, not at all. I can't. My eyes are open. And that's why I'm not mad at these people that go negative, or I got nothing against the people in religion. Nothing. Because I was once asleep too, you know.
Well, I think it's worse than that. I think it's like the Bible does, Sarah. It's a snare. It's a trap. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just the side effect of being ensnared is the scales are put over your eyes. And by the way, no matter how much we wake up, Robbie, we're not that awake. We're nothing like our ancestors were.
No,
nothing even close to. We have a long ways to go.
Trapped in service.
That's right, and that's and that's a way to keep oneself kind of humble at the circumstances that we're all in. People say, it's just the best time to be alive, and just imagine all the things that are going to happen. I'm like, yeah, well, until we can get to that point, enough of us to say, you know what, things are so bad.
I gotta try.
Yeah, I'm really going to have to shine that light, my light that I have, and be brave enough to shine it into the darkness and spend time in the darkness, not to become dark, not to become, a terrible human being or be a burden on the rest of the world, but to really shine, figurative and literal.
Well, I embrace my dark and my light. I've talked to the dark. I talk to light too. A lot of problem with the dark was the light come in. The light didn't do it, but humanity did. Always using the dark as a scapegoat, and we're all in the same dimension basically. And this stuff they're letting in from that CERN, that portal, it's supernatural evil. It ain't even part of our dimension. You know what I'm saying? So if they destroy this world, we all lose, even spirit,
Which is fascinating that it has to be a circle. All these hadron colliders all have to be circles. Yeah. And you think about tree rings and what they represent, and growth and what happens, and then orbs are circles, and what they call planets are circles, and what they call stars are circles, and when you just go on and on and on, portals are circles, and there's something. They're all connected. You know what I mean? It's not just being like wishy-washy or just trying desperately to connect the dots. There really is something going on here that we're missing collectively.
Right.
If we work together on this, and that's why it's important to talk to a guy like you. You might be the furthest thing from being a guy who's a Bigfoot researcher, and I could care less if you are or not, right? And by the way, I'm going to tell you something. This is what I go through. So I just started posting some of my stuff on TikTok of the images that I film, and some of the guys that I was interacting with, Christians or recovering Christians or people that are really into the Bible and all that, you know what? And very intellectual people dumping me, like making fun of me, mocking me, dumping me. It's not like there's very many of them left anyways, but the fact of the matter is that's what happens when this is what happens. What I have learned about what the pursuit of the truth is that you either pursue the truth, or that you allow the group to control you, and you allow consensus, the group leaders, to tell you, let them become your God instead of the creator, the life force, let it drive you, let it lead you to all truth, or you will be, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what circumstances you're in. The moment you let, and that applies, anybody's listening to me, right? If there's anybody that even sees me as being the leader, Please stop it now. I wanted to, in the pursuit of the truth, and I'm sharing my journey with you. I am not anything but better or anything worse than anybody else. I'm just another critter in the forest that's stuck in this matrix that needs to get back to, I don't want to, how do I say this? It's not even that I don't want. I want to know the truth, damn it.
It's
I
all
want to
about
know
truth.
the absolute truth, and that's what I want. I do not want to live my rest of my life in La La Land. I'm just sick of it.
I don't believe we're sheep either. We're not sheep. We're not sheep. We're lions. I think they put that on us too. No.
Hey, Judy, thank you for
Man,
joining us.
man's own intellect has surpassed his common sense. Man's own intellect will render himself
Thanks,
obsolete.
Sheldon. Sheldon, thanks for being there, right, man. So, hey, listen, we're probably going to end this now because it's been 2 hours. So
Okay.
I love this conversation. Robbie, come back in maybe a month or two, or whatever, and let's
Just hit me up.
give us an update about your grounding and all your other journeys and things that happen in your life, the good, bad, and the ugly. Even if you fall or stumble or whatever, don't worry about it. We're not going to judge you here. We're all in the same boat, one way or another. It's Robbie Olson378. That's his TikTok channel. You'll find it in the information box. Go and check him out. He's the when I first saw Robbie, I'm like, who is this crazy dude? Which is interesting because remember I told you not to call yourself crazy. And then
No, but
how I've changed in 7 months. I'm like, no, you're not. Robbie's not crazy. He's not even close to being crazy. He's sharing
he's
part of
growing.
the journey. But the problem is that you and I, or at least me, I missed the very fundamental part of our reality. Right? And our relationship with the nature and with the trees and with God and God's creation. And I'm almost like, maybe he has a point there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe it's worth a shot. For whatever reasons we're doing it for. So that's one of the things I'm going to try to do, although it's still a little cold up here in Northwest Ohio. I mean, but I'm going to try it anyways tomorrow, and I'm going to try it, as long as it's not raining and it's super cold. I'll go out there and I will ground myself to the spirits of the trees and see what happens. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, to me, what would be really cool for me, Robbie, is that my legs work once again where I can go tromp in the woods.
Amen, brother. Hey, I'm a spiritual leader. I am a healer. I'm going to send you healing too, Mike. So you make sure you ground them all because that's part of it. I give a lot of people gifts. I love you, man. Thanks for having me on your show, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. Your brother, and and I'm just like, Judy, thank you for being there. Lorna, thank you for being there. CP, thank you for being there. Julio, thank you for always being there. Sheldon, thank you for being there. Who else did I miss? Anybody else I missed? Of course, Damien, thank you for being there. Christy, of course, thank you for being there. Julie, thank you for being there. Who else have I forgotten? If I've forgotten you, I'm trying to scroll through here. Judy, of course, thank you for being there. Who else is there? Oh, okay, MT, thank you for being there. And Will, thank you for being there. And Captain Caveman, thank you for being there. And I just ask you guys to I don't know, help me and let's help each other. Hey, Chris, thank you for showing up. I haven't seen you in a while. AOS, Chris Miller. He's an artist that does art, draws interesting art about Bigfoot and all that. So I haven't seen it in a while. So let's all have each other in our prayers. I'll do it. Let's do it right now before I go. The Lord of all spirits, the Most High, may you bless Robbie and every single person that listens to this, that's with us now, and that you help us to grow closer to you and to the truth, and that we may be a light in the world for good. And all praise and glory to you, Lord, and to the Lord of all spirits, all praise and glory to you. And I want to ask you a question, Lord of all spirits. How are you doing today? How are you today? And we want to know how you are doing, and we want to be closer to you. Okay, Rob, you want to say something before we go?
I just want to thank your viewers for listening. And, man, try it for a week. See what happens. You'll be surprised. It'll change your life.
Yeah, in fact, hey, here's anybody who hears this. Let's all try it. Let's all challenge ourselves for a week to try to follow what Robbie says. What's the worst that can happen? He said only do it for 3 minutes. I mean, so let's try it. Let's see what happens, and let's report back to each other. Who knows? Maybe spectacular things may happen.
Why you should have called it the Tree of Life.
Hung on a tree, and trees. Always about trees in that book, all the way through it. And all right, folks, many blessings. I'm hanging up. Right, I'm ending the. You can stay on. I'm just ending the broadcast.